really appreciate you being here to lead this conversation. Thank you to our interpreters who are here, who are helping us share that story today. Thank you to all of you for coming and taking time out of your busy schedule to engage in this important conversation. And I'd like to start with our first panelist, who's going to introduce herself. And she's just going to tell us her definition of race. So we're going to go through each panelist. They'll give an introduction of self, tell us how they define race. And if to help out our interpreters, if one person can speak at a time, that would be lovely. Okay, let's get started. I think JeaDa's starting us out. Thank you.
Yes, hello. First of all, I'd like to encourage everyone to put their pronouns on the screen just so that we can stay respectful to each other. I use she and her. So I'm JeaDa, and I'm a recent graduate of LCSE. Go LCSE. Proud of you guys. Way to show up today. Way to cut time out of your day, because I know life is so stressful right now in so many different ways. And, you know, just by showing up today is doing the work that we're talking about, continuing it. And I'm excited to share what I have to say about everything. So yeah, I'm JeaDa. I'll be here if you have any questions.
So Erica's number 2.
Hello, my name is Erica Allen. I'm the Director of College Advancement, Executive Director of the LCSE Foundation. I'm excited to be here and be part of this panel. I appreciate everyone who's put in the effort to organize this week. It's exciting to see a variety of programs happening this week here at LC State. Kerensa asked for us to provide our definition of race. And this was something that I had to put a lot of thought into. It's like, do I give this dictionary definition of race? Everyone can look a definition up, right? You can look it up in a textbook and get kind of a standard definition of race. What I decided to do is actually define race in my own experience, in my own terms, and that's really the only thing that I could share is my own story, my own personal experience when it comes to race and my ethnicity. So my race and my ethnicity is really my core identity. And when we think about identity, we have a lot of different identities, but I identify as Hispanic or Latinx or as a Latina. And so when I think about race, that is the core, that is the primary definition of myself. And that is interwoven with other identities that I have. So I identify as a woman, I identify as a woman of color, and I identify as a Chicana or a Mexican American woman. I also identify as a feminist. I am a feminist of color. I am a Chicana feminist. And so when I think about race, it truly is my primary identity that is interwoven into other aspects of self. And I also recognize that my own race is really what people see when they see me and meet me at the first, when they first meet me. They see what I look like, and there's at times underlying assumptions and maybe even stereotypes about how I present myself and what I look like, my color, what have you. So that's kind of my own definition of race.
Third.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. Thank you for welcoming me to this panel. My name is Carrillo. I am a first-generation Mexican-American senior at LCSE. So, as Erica mentioned previously, when thinking about how I define race, multiple ways could go with this, but from my perspective, race is a dynamic social concept that has been used and continues to be used today to categorize our daily experiences as human beings. What I mean by this is that race is specifically used within our social realities to capture the experiences that we deem to be similar or distinct from our own being. Similarities or differences in physical or social traits such as skin color or language. However, if put simply, I would define race with 2 words: separation, unification. Now, which definition or social reality pulls us toward? Well, that is why we are here today. So let's talk about it.
Hi, I'm Kiara Garcia. Thank you for having me on the panel today. Really excited to be here and just talk about race with everyone on this panel. I'm a senior at LCSC in the social work program. I'm from Lapwai, Idaho on the Nez Perce Reservation. And race to me, I feel like what Erica and Mari said is, yeah, like it's, I don't know, for me too, it was weird trying to come up with like my own definition of it and seeing like what it like means to me. But I feel like it makes race for me is like it makes up like who I am. Like so my dad is Native Mexican and my mom's white. And so I don't know, it's like for me I guess it's kind of complicated because I'm a mix of like different things. So I think it's all just like something that makes me like who I am, but I feel like sometimes it can put people in like a box, like when, you know, some questionnaires will ask you like, oh, what's your race? Like, I feel like it can be, it makes you, I don't know, it like puts you in a box. So it's, I don't know, it's definitely like a weird construct for me, but yeah.
Bill, you're next.
Okay, good. I'm Bill Hayne. I'm an assistant professor in the teacher education division here at LCSC. And Kerensa, I just want to say thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. I said this before we started, and that was, it's nice to see so many young people on this panel and taking steps to address and to talk about it. I loved what Mari said in terms of that if we boil it down, it's either separation or unification. And I'm Assiniboine Sioux from Fort Peck, Montana. That's my home res. But I was born and spent the first few years of my life in Lapwai among the Nez Perce Nation. And we moved down to southern Idaho. And the experience that brought to light the separation of things was when we moved to southern Idaho. My dad and I, which is where my bloodline of Assiniboine Sioux comes from. I'm also of mixed race. My mom is also Caucasian. But when we moved down south, I was about 7 years of age and left Fort Hall and went into Pocatello. And we were just hanging out together. And we went to a cafe, going to grab a burger for lunch. And there was a sign in the window that said, "No dogs or Indians allowed." And this was in 1960, probably 2. And I remember just standing there and looking at my dad and asking him, "What the heck does this mean?" And he said, "We can't go in there." And we talked for quite a while. He talked me down for quite a while. And that was the moment in which I experienced the separation. And I would guess that over my 27 years here, as well as all my time as a principal with the Lummi Indian Nation and elsewhere, it's been an effort and a fight to keep in mind unification, which is why I really appreciated a lot of what Jeff Guillory said yesterday was the notion of trying to come alongside people and help people see the unification components of this, which sometimes makes people very uncomfortable, and I'm okay with that. I'm comfortable being uncomfortable with all of this, but my experiences then drove my identity to really, although I recognize that I am mixed race, I really identify with the native Assiniboine Sioux aspect of my life.
Thank you, Bill. Tommy, you're next.
Hello, my name is Tommy Miles Williams. I'm from the Nez Perce Indian Reservation. I grew up in Lapwai, Idaho. I'm also Black, African American. My dad is from Chicago. I'm also a senior at LC, but go to the question on the definition of race. I feel my definition is something that you are born of, physical traits that you have no control of. It's who you are. I mean, like hair, skin color, facial features. That is what you have no control over. And I feel how we go over, how we take pride in those things, how we find our similarities and differences is really what motivates us. When I first realized the divide of races is probably when I was 3rd, 4th grade. I went to school at Lapway all my life, and I'm a proud member of the Nez Perce Indian Reservation, and I noticed the difference between how I look compared to a lot of my siblings who were full Nez Perce. And what was hard about that was understanding that even though there's differences, I was still part of the people. And that was a struggle for me, because even though I would have my tribal ID with me or anything, it was just like I was working my whole life to show people who I was. And the fact that I had darker skin and different hair texture was really hard growing up. Even being an athlete, when we talk about race, I worked my hardest to be the best I could be. And even at times when I would score a bucket or something, or get a dunk in a game, it was always, well, it's because you're Black. That is the only reason why you are good, is because you're Black. And this frustrated me because it discredited my character. It discredited all the heartaches, the frustration inside of me. And it confused me that the color of my skin was the only reason that I was accepted in, not only in Lapway, but in the whole LC Valley. And even just how proving to people that I'm African American and Native American, and I'm from this area. People always assume like, oh, do you play at LC? Why are you here? And so definitely I'm very proud to be on this panel. I definitely want to raise the discussion, and I definitely want to raise awareness, and also if I can inform and help youth about it and how we can start change, because the way this country is going, it's scary. I mean, I don't want my future kids to go through the same things I went through. And if so, I know I can't protect them from it, but I definitely want to be able to prepare them like any other person that struggles with race. I want to prepare them for what struggles they might have. So I appreciate you guys listening to me.
Thank you so much. Okay, Chloe.
Tatsalach Oiklo, Inamanigwas, Chloe Thompson. I am a sophomore attending LC. I am Nez Perce and African American. My father is African American and my mother is Nez Perce, and I grew up on the Nez Perce reservation. To me, race it was hard for me. I felt like I was in the same boat as JeaDa, where I felt like I really had to think hard about race. But race to me is the immediate identification someone has on somebody that exemplifies heritage. And race basically puts us in a category because it does. And it's up to us, I feel, to embrace that. And then from race comes culture and the beauty of our culture. And from culture comes pride. And that's something ever since we were born with, we embrace that, we grew up with that, we have to not be ashamed of who we are, because if we do, we kind of give the other person who is judging us power. And for me, growing up on the Nez Perce reservation, it was difficult sometimes to be both Black and Native, because people want to put you in either or. They can't just see you as both. And for me, I had to, since maybe 8 or 9 years old, I had to stand up for both of my cultures, and I had to kind of set the record straight if someone wanted to kind of set me apart from a group or from people. But now I feel just very grateful and honored to be on a panel to discuss this, because it's important to discuss this, especially now. Race is the past, present, and future, and it's not going anywhere. So it's up to us to really embrace that and to tell people that it's important to talk about this now.
Thank you. And any follow-up with JeaDa? Do you want to say a little bit more?
Yeah, because
Absolutely.
I'm so poor at doing introductions at first. So I'm glad that you all went through it so now I can come back. So again, I'm JeaDa. I am mixed with white, and then my dad is Black. Because there have been a lot of really great definitions, and I really do like what Mari said, and Chloe and Tom, everyone, you all had a really great perspective and a great way of defining that. Something I wanted to say, because I was thinking about the difference between defining race as someone of color versus defining race as someone who is white in a white America, for instance, in a white, world, like what we see in the media, what we see as this default. And I was thinking how in our definitions, we talked about culture, and we talked about the physical, and we talked about social, and like how those are interchangeable within the definitions of race. And then I was thinking about how when you are born a person of color, you are trying so hard to find the pride in the physical at times, especially if you're in really white communities and you're alone. I'm sure all of you can understand what I'm about to talk about, because it took me like till I was 19 or 20 to be like, I love my hair. I can actually wear my hair out. My skin is not ugly. All of these things, I just never felt like it was okay because it wasn't the standard. And being, of color in white spaces means you have to define your race and your power. Otherwise, someone else defines it for you, and it's their white default. And like, that's what Tommy was saying. Like in sports, I agree, the same thing. Oh, you can only jump because you're Black. Oh, you blah, blah, because you're Black. And then I remember the thing said about lap weight. I had just moved to Troy, and I remember we got in high school and everyone had something to say, whether it was things such as like scalping. I'm sure you heard something about that, how ridiculous and how disgusting that was. It really hit me as I got older. And I knew it was wrong at the time, but you have you're so alone in your thoughts sometimes, especially how you're seeing the world, and you're gaslighted 100% of the time. So even us today, being able to sit as adults now, not those little kids that were so smothered in whiteness, to be honest with you, and I will say toxic whiteness as well. It's amazing to see us standing in our power and saying our definitions of race. And I am just proud of everyone for that. So on to the next, Kerensa.
Thank you. Thank you. So already we have a presentation of just the power of identity, the power to define self, the power or the lack of power if we're put into boxes based on that identity. So thank you for sharing so far. I think the next question supports just kind of that continued discussion. And really it comes down to this idea of why do we need to have conversations like this? So why is it important to talk about race? And so I'd like to open that up to anyone. It has been requested that you would reintroduce yourself. So when you speak, if you'd say what your name is again, so we just remind people, because some people joined us a little bit late. So I'm going to open this up. So just if each of us would like to take, or just a couple of us would like to talk about why this conversation is so important.
Do you all want to keep any sort of structure? Do you want to raise hands or something with reactions so we can kind of have organization?
Yep. Do we want to raise a hand and someone want to go first?
Yeah.
Okay, Tommy.
I think, there's a lot of reasons why we need to talk about race, and a lot of physical reasons. You look at people who are dying for their color of their skin. Some people view people of color as a threat, and not only African American, but Native American. And it's something about the way our social structure silences issues like that. And I feel that it's something like even in the LC Valley. So growing up, it was kind of like something you could all feel, this racial tension, but no one noticed it. I have uncles that played AAU basketball in Lewiston, but before they could play, they had to cut their hair because the referees would not allow them to wear braids. And so this is some things that damage our identity. And when you talk about damaging an identity, people don't know the physical effects and what it changes in your life. So me personally, finding that identity and how you understand who you are. So it was just like I was fighting to be Native enough or be Black enough. And that translated to sports, to the way I taught. I mean, people judge me. They're like, well, you sound really Native, but you're really dark. And that caused me to act out of tone. I would start to act negative and play to stereotypes. And stereotypes are something that is very toxic, and especially around here. When you already have a perception of someone because of their skin color, so when they act differently, it causes that tension. A lot of people saw me as a gang member. I'll use an example. I was a junior in high school, and our football team was really good that year. So the Lewiston Tribune got to do an article of us, and they took, 50 pictures of us, me and my team captains. And it was with my brother and 3 other people who were Native American. And all of them were serious pictures, don't smile, nothing. And then one picture, one of my friends did a West Side sign. And then the photographer encouraged us, like, yeah, get goofy, do West Side, do stuff like that. So my last name's Miles Williams. So I did Miles Williams. And I just thought we were just having fun that day. A week later, I come to find out they used that picture. They used that picture for the Tribune. I didn't think no harm done, but what I noticed was the fear and the questions people had about people of color was something that was accurate. We go onto Facebook, and that same picture, people commented from all over the LC Valley and all over inland, and they were saying, we knew that they were gang members. We knew that they are part of something like that. And it took our whole community had to get together and say, like, you guys realize what you've done. You painted this picture of our people, of our youth. And none of these kids have ever done a felony. We've never been a part of anything like that. But it's something so simple of just that perception. It shows people done harmless stuff of just viewing a picture, but their own stereotype of how they view us. And they just needed one picture to prove that fear. So when we talk about race, it's just like, it's important because, so that's the very same fear is what causes a lot of unarmed shootings. You see a lot of African-American people who get killed, and it's scary to me that we don't see, like, we're not trying to find the outcome for it. We're not trying to work together for it because people still have that fear, and which it's false. It's not real. The stereotypes are not real. And my whole life, I had to work every time I seen a person that view me as a gang member or someone like that because I had tattoos or for the way I dressed. I had to work extra hard to show them how respectful I was. And police officers, I had to actually show them, like, see my character, not my color, see my character. And that is frustrating. I mean, that is a lot you put on people of color, especially at a young age, in a place, just how my other panelists were saying, like when you're a person of dark color in a white community, it's just like you have to be on your best behavior. You have to do the best you can, because once you make a mistake, once they see you for any little thing, whether you went drinking, you went to the bar, you got pulled over, just a little speeding ticket, it's because of their race. We are able to justify someone's mistakes over their race. And I feel like talking about race is the first thing we need to do to end that, because the last thing anyone would want to go through is being judged by their skin color, what mistake they ever made. So I feel this is something that we all need to work. No one can sit out of this debate. I mean, we need everyone. And it's caused a lot of depression and trauma on my personal life. Growing up, I had to choose between growing my hair out or leaving it short, and to this day, I still question that. I still am trying to accept myself. And I'm sorry, I don't want to take anyone's time, but I'll use one more example. I signed to play basketball at Eastern Oregon University for my junior year. I was a transfer out of a junior college. I didn't know much about the coaches or the school, but I was desperate to find a team to play on. The coach met with me. He seemed like a really nice guy. We got together for practice, and he made an announcement that we were going target shooting with actual guns. And he asked us one by one in a huddle, how many of you have shot guns before? And when he asked me, I told him, I was like, yes, I've shot a gun before. And when I was getting ready to explain that my family hunts, he commented and said, we're not talking about drive-bys, Tommy. And after he said that, he laughed and encouraged the rest of the team to laugh and all the coaching staff. This is what I am talking about. When he tried to do that, or when he did, it was just like, why? Why would, like, okay, maybe he was just innocent about it and he thought it was funny. So I talked to him and I was in tears. I was wondering why. And his excuse or his apology was, I talk to other Black people this way, so I thought I can talk to you this way. And that right there is what I'm talking about, of why we need to talk about race. Because he was about probably 50 years old. He was twice my age, and he still didn't understand the effects he had. And when I explained to him, okay, I was like, you see me, you made that comment. Okay, what about that same views of me? And this is life or death. And I try to explain this, but he was like, you're blowing it way out of proportion. I don't know why you're trying to make me out to be the bad guy. I was like, no, people of my skin color are dying because I'm viewed as someone dangerous, but you think it's funny. And that is the anger I had for that, I don't have words to express. And I ended up just finding a home at LC, and I wish the team the best, but I'm glad things are starting to progress now where LCSC is on the front of talking about race. So yeah, I definitely want to keep pushing to talk about race and work with all you guys.
Wow. Tommy, thank you. I think you've shared a lot of really powerful reasons that we obviously need to keep this conversation going. And I just want to make sure we have plenty of time for just giving some more. So anyone else want to share why this conversation is important? Why do we need to talk about race? Maybe we can hear from two other people, so maybe Kiara and then Bill.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's super important to talk about, like with what Tommy and JeaDa said, like the stereotypes that people have. Like it's important to talk about race because we can address those stereotypes and be like, hey, that's not true, that's not okay, like this isn't who I am as a person, and just because you've heard this from other people doesn't mean that, you know, that's how it is. And I think just like with like especially here in like the LC Valley, so like I'm from Lapway, and I went to school out there till I was in 6th grade, and then I started going to school in town when I was in 7th grade. And there was a few kids, like me and my brother and like a couple other kids from Lapway who transferred into Lewiston, and I think that experience really like opened my eyes to how people really do like I guess like with stereotypes, like they don't get to know you first, they just judge you based on those stereotypes first. So like friends that I started to like get to know like at Lewiston, like they would be like, oh, like, do you live in a teepee? Like things that were just like not okay, they just like played into it, and it just made me feel like really I guess me and my brother, it just like affected us like pretty hard. Or even last year we were at a basketball game here at LCSE, and my brother has really long hair, and this guy started making fun of him for it. He's like, oh, like you're a girl, like with your long hair, like why do you have it so long, you need to cut it short. And I could tell like that like really affected like my brother. And my dad as a kid, he had braids, he had long hair as a kid, and he cut them because people made him feel ashamed of like who he was. Sorry. But I think it's so important to talk about race because then we can address like those stereotypes and prove people wrong and show like this isn't okay that you automatically think this about me, like that's not okay, like this is who I really am, and you shouldn't you know, just think that everyone's like this because it's not okay. And yeah, I just think, yeah, especially here in the LC Valley, there's a lot of discussion that needs to happen about stereotypes because Lewiston and Lapway are, you know, not that far apart from each other, but just hearing like how people think Lewiston, how people in Lewiston think people from Lapway are, it's so sad. And it's so like frustrating because it's like, no, you don't even know me, but you make all these assumptions about me and who I am. And so it's important to talk about race, to address those, to say, no, like enough's enough. Like this is who I am actually as a person.
Thank you so much. I am going to remind people to turn off your microphones for me. So if your microphones are on, you could just take a moment to double check that you are muted. There's a button right at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen. If you could just take a time to mute that, because it sounds like we have some background noise. We just want to be real respectful of our panelists and the importance of what they're saying. So thank you very much. Okay, Bill, would you like to share with us?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to say how proud I am of what the panel is sharing and the courage. It is evidence of who are the risk takers, and it has always been us when we step into the conversation to either correct somebody or to allow somebody some insight that they've never had before. We're the ones who have the bigger risk. And some words that were shared earlier, was regarding the toxicity of where we grow up. And you know, I'm a lot older than everybody else on the panel, but I also want to share just real quickly a couple of episodes that happened for me. But the amount of emotional stamina that it takes to continually come up against this, to continually address this. What I guess I enjoy about what's going on today right now is most of the rest of the population that hasn't had to deal with emotional stamina building is now experiencing that. And that's, they're kind of like, can't we get past this stuff? And yeah, I hope we do someday. But what most of white America is experiencing right now is the emotional trauma and the incredible stamina that it takes to talk about this all the time, to live it out every day. And you young people, I'm so proud of you and the movement that you are engaged with and how we are coming alongside you. I just want to say that the emotional stamina I know is a drain. But as you listen to one another and as you come alongside one another, you're helping this old feller with his emotional stamina. Having worked here for the past 21 years or 27 years and been involved with things for a long time. Thank you for how you're encouraging me. And I hope that the reason that we talk about this is to put it on the table so we can slice it up, cut it up, talk about it, and really be changed and help to change other people. And so my first story is real quickly. I came from a small junior college in Southern Idaho to play baseball at LCSC in 1976. And again, the old gymnasium, which is no longer in existence, was there. And there were two really idiotic Indian mascots on the wall. I mean, really, really idiotic looking. And every stereotype of an Indian warrior was on display. And I was fortunate to come here at a time in which there were people who were willing to talk about it, you know, and thinking that we had passed by all these issues, and who was taking the risk? It was those of us who were in the Indian club, those of us who were saying, wait a second, you know, this image is wrong. We don't mind the mascot name, warrior, but we also, you got to take a look at this. This is not any of us. And I know my coach who was Ed Chef, was very supportive of our efforts to kind of get that changed. And it still took a little while, but that mascot left, and that was a huge, huge victory. I also just want to say thanks to President Pemberton and her dialogue with the Nez Perce tribe when the Washington football team finally got rid of one of the most offensive mascot names that there can be. And the dialogue between the tribe and our president's office was such that she was open to change if that's what it meant. And the dialogue that needed to take place took place. And I love where they're at right now, that the warrior name stays because it has a lot of different connotations. I also like what she shared with us on our diversity council, and that is that could change with new leadership at the tribe. And I love that kind of fluidity, because that's what this is about. Why we talk about it is because it is fluid. It is, we want to get rid of the toxicity, so it's got to remain fluid, because once it gets stagnant, it's stuck. And so the discussion is so important to be enriched by you all, by others, to help change it. And the other risk that is taken is professional. My first professional job after traveling around with baseball and then my old life with hacky sack was at a community college in Seattle, Washington, Green River Community College, as the minority affairs director and their head baseball coach. It was right next to the Muckleshoot Res. And in my day-long interview with everybody, I interviewed with the dean of students, and after visiting with him for a while, and I still had hair back then, even, you know, so I had a little bit more of a representation. But as we talked towards the end of the interview, and this was towards the end of the day, he said, "Bill, you know, you're not like a lot of Indian people I know," and I'm kind of a smart aleck, okay, just the way I grew up and teasing my older brothers and stuff. And at that moment, I just said, "Well, you're not like a lot of white people I know." And his response was, "What do you mean by that?" And as soon as it came out of my mouth, I thought, I just probably lost this job because that was a risk. But I talked about it. I said, "You tell me what you meant by that, and then I'll talk to you about what I meant." And we had another half-hour conversation that he thanked me for when we were done. And I did get the job and was able to work with Green River Community College Minority Affairs program for a long time. And I'm real grateful for some of the Indian education coordinators in the Renton, Kent, Auburn, Federal Way school districts who came alongside me to help me. It was valuable because we talked about this, and we were the ones who were needing the emotional stamina building and encouraging from others. So the value of talking about this is unending, and it's extremely important to keep doing it, to gain strength from one another, and to help people become enlightened as you have enlightened me already. So thank you for how you're sharing and the courage that you guys have.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah, thank you for everyone sharing. I want to just keep building on that idea of the necessity to not stop the conversation. This need that it's not static. It needs to be fluid. It needs to incorporate a lot of voices, and I really appreciate that we're hearing these voices, and that everyone is. This is a risk. It's an emotional, it's emotional capital, and yeah, just to really support that. I'm really happy that we're having this conversation, but I can't emphasize enough that the conversation can't stop here. And so with that, I would like to encourage some the people maybe we haven't heard, so maybe Erica or Chloe or Mari, if you wouldn't mind. I would like to talk about, what do we think those are changes that need to happen, or a recommendation? Where do we go from here? What are some tangible ways that we can support the continuation of this conversation? Or if there's another way to say that, like, what are some of the conversations that you think we really need to focus on right now? So that you could take either of those questions, or if you have another way of kind of addressing that. Does that feel okay? So Erica?
I'll go ahead and start. We're really navigating in a challenging environment and landscape. And I think as a Hispanic person, as a Latinx individual, I've experienced that from the get-go, and I recognize that from the get-go. I think one thing that folks need to understand is that institutional racism or institutionalized racism is real. And that there are systems in place to ensure that different ethnic groups aren't in power, or they aren't empowered, and they don't have a voice, whether that be politically, just within their own communities, what have you. And there's an incredible power play that's going on and has been going on since, I think, the beginning of time, when we talk about colonization and what have you. And so when we think about what types of conversations we need to have, we always talk about, how do we decolonize the curriculum? How do we reimagine and redefine our concepts of self? And I think that those types of conversations in academia is very important. In addition to that, the research that goes behind that, redefining ourselves, and creating a body of research that empowers students and empowers our communities to do that. The other thing that I forgot to share earlier is that I serve as the vice chair for the Idaho Commission on Hispanic Affairs. And it's a volunteer position, but I think a lot of my activism started when I was in college. And the reason why it did was because it wasn't until I stepped foot on a college campus that I realized, wow, there aren't many people who look like me in this setting. Why is that? And why is it that I don't see many people who have, I guess, similar experiences as I do among faculty, among staff, among the administrators? And it was kind of disheartening. And so I took it upon myself to really get involved, get active. I started a student group because there wasn't a student group on my college campus that was geared towards reaching out to Latinx students, predominantly Spanish-speaking students, junior high and high school students, about going to college and what that looks like, and talking to their parents about the whole process too. And it was a grassroots effort. I mean, we had no money, but we raised money to make it happen. And we saw the impact, the direct impact on our campus population because of that. And that program is still going on today. It's like a legit outreach program at UCLA to this day. That wasn't happening 20 years ago. And so when I think about what students can do, I think you can you can advocate within your own communities. You can start student groups that have these types of conversations. You can engage with nonprofit organizations that are doing this type of work. You can establish a professional career that guides public policy in your community or in your state that tackles race and racism in general. I think policy plays a huge role in a lot of our day-to-day experiences, and I think that we could align ourselves in such a way that we can truly be advocates for our communities and share our voice, and also help others understand that they have a voice and there is a safe space that they could turn to if they need additional support. And so I'm glad that we're having those conversations, and I really see students as being on the forefront of those efforts. And a lot of the panelists, and I see some of these students who are here today who are already doing that work here in our own community, and I commend them. But the work is ongoing and it is exhausting, but you need to keep on moving forward, and we will continue to move forward and make progress.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. Chloe or Mari, I don't want to put you on the spot. Do one of you, Chloe?
Yeah, I could talk. I feel like there's just so much that people can do involving race. I feel like people just have to acknowledge it. People just have to recognize that what's going on is real. You know, people don't want, when they see on the timeline, when they see on news outlets, they want to change the channel because they don't want to accept that Black and brown people are being murdered. They don't want to accept that the struggle with ICE and immigrants. You know, they don't want to see this, but it's the reality. It's something that's happening right now. I feel like for people who aren't people of color, I feel like the best you can do is to use your privilege. If you aren't, if you are white, I'm going to keep it real. If you are white, and I feel like you have to use that privilege to speak out, to say the things that that all of us are trying to say. Sign those petitions, use your voice. You have to, by staying silent, you're agreeing with what people are saying maliciously about us. And in this day and age, people really have to wake up. They have to really take action. I mean, I was listening to Tommy and about character, and it's hard because people they don't see character. One that comes to mind is Elijah McClain. He was this, it's hard for me talking about him because he was just this gentle soul. He had just the most beautiful character. And the one thing that those cops saw was just this Black man in a ski mask. And that one really touched hard with me. So I feel like people who are seeing this, they have to share the word, spread the word. They have to make sure that this doesn't go on any longer. I just feel like people just have to acknowledge it. They have to have conversations, and they have to use their voice. I feel like that's what you really have to do.
Thank you. Mari?
Wow, well, it has been incredible to listen to all of the panelists, and with that, for the recommendations for today to continue the conversation, what I took away from all the stories shared here today is that we will never know a person's story if we do not ask. And race creates discomfort. Even the term itself, it creates discomfort. There's a TED Talk by Baratunde Thurston on how to deconstruct racism, one headline at a time. And within this TED Talk, he describes how discomfort can be weaponized. And this is where we often see violent or threatening acts against people of color. However, we can also use that discomfort in a different form. We can embrace it and accept change. Because again, hearing these stories, it should not be a crime to exist, right? I guess the one story that I'd like to share is also, there are many things that we can do, to join the fight against, or more than anything, more like unify ourselves, to come together and overcome these unfortunately boundaries that have been set. And but the tasks sometimes don't have to be that great or amazing. There's all these historical figures and even present day figures, and ones that we can even see rising now today, that are out on the front lines, that are doing amazing, extraordinary things. And sometimes we get overwhelmed and we say, gosh, but can I really do that? All right, well, I started volunteering at the free clinic, the Snake River Community Clinic in downtown Lewiston. And I was very excited. I wasn't sure what was going to be in store for me. One of the first tasks that the director asked me to do was, she handed me these 2 forms, and I read, they said inpatient take forms. And she said, can you translate these intake forms for me? You see, we have an increasing populations of Spanish-speaking patients. And if they're going to be signing their rights away, they should at least know what they're signing. She said that those forms had been that way at least for over 20 years. I translated those forms in less than 5 hours. And at least now they'll know. That's one small act. But it can have a great impact, and you never know you're having that impact towards. So my recommendations is just be a part of the conversation and realize that small acts sometimes are the ones that are remembered. Thanks.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Thank you, Mari, for sharing. So one request for Mari, would you write that TED Talk in the chat for everyone? So if that's a good recommendation. Or I saw also JeaDa mentioned another book, The New Jim Crow. My panelists, kind of as you're here, if you can think of good resources for action, or again, to help us continue this conversation, please write those in the chat and share them with everyone. And I would recommend for everyone to copy those resources and put them into another document, because as soon as our screen closes, the chat room goes away. So, but JeaDa, yes, please.
Okay, so I have a lot of things to say, but I'm going to keep it short, and then I'll help us move on to the next, because I would like to talk about that as well. When it comes to recommendations, so for instance, I and my other friend Madison Winner, we did I always call her Winner. We did a Black Lives Matter rally in the Valley. A lot of you were there. A lot of you weren't there. We've been giving recommendations. We've had leaders and artists and creatives giving recommendations for hundreds of years. It is not up to us to keep giving these recommendations. And I know we're providing space. I love that. That's great. But it is not up to us. We keep saying conversation, because it can't be us force feeding you this information. You have to find it in yourself to go through these books. Find these there's Black authors out there. There are many book lists with Black authors. And if you don't have them naturally, go find them. You have to seek the information, because I've had to seek the information. They've had to seek the information. It is up to you, and you need to take responsibility for it. And I have so many people in my DMs, oh, can you give me a book? Can you give me a book? I gave you a book and you have not read it. I gave you an essay and you didn't make annotations, okay? With that, I would like to say that, Kerensa, do you want to go into the next topic? Yeah. Okay. No, wait, no.
Keep going. We're okay. So maybe like 5 minutes or so, and then we'll open it up to broader questions. So if the audience has questions that they'd like to ask, this is a good time to post. And so, yes,
okay.
We'll keep
so should
going.
we talk about our sentences right now as well?
No. So don't do your sentence yet.
Okay. I would like to say that, okay, let me find my thought. So we talk about this, you know, pride in America. And let's be honest, it's a white pride. Because we talk about like institutionalized racism, and that would be in part suppressed voices, oppressed voices that have always been here and have been equal part in building this country and our nation and our world that don't have recognition. People whose land was stolen, people whose cultures are continuously being stolen. And when we don't do the work to find more of that art, that story, that movie, that book, that person doing a TED Talk, we continue to allow that oppression and we stuff those voices. And there's no such thing as pride in the nation if you don't know the people who actually built it, okay? If we don't know and we don't give recognition and respect to the people that have built this world. And why is race important to talk about? Because it's in everything. It's in the people that built these computers. It's in the people that maybe you got your food from. It's from people in government. It's all of these people that you interact with on the streets. I want to make something really clear. We can't make a better world if you can't even say hello to the person next to you. If you can't listen, you have to listen to their story. To provide space to listen to their story, you have to approach people. You have to be an open heart. You have to have an open mind. A lot of like the Black Lives Matter peace rally we did was literally just to have people see that they weren't alone. And that was one of the biggest things that came out of it, was people realizing, oh, I'm not alone in my thoughts. I think equality is great, and so do these people. Come on, we have all these people in that town, and I'm not even in the town anymore, okay? I'm in California, and so I'm gonna pass the torch a little bit more to people to step up, because I want to see more from LCSC. I want to see more from LCSC, because you know what? In the 1 year that I really stepped up, in the 4 years that I was there, I gave a lot. And I helped provide a lot of space, and I want to see it keep happening. And you need to step up so that people right after you don't have to continue to do it. What I did gave you a little bit more of a step. What the person before me did gave me a little bit more of a step, okay? We have to work together, and that does take all colors, everything. But we need to empower each other. So start by doing the inward work. That is my recommendation. Look at who you are. Because I'm seeing issues with myself. Racism is in me too. I realized since coming to California, I have profiled people. This is the hard shit right here, excuse my language. But when you realize the hate you have for yourself, the hate that you have for yourself that was given to you, now that's real. And that's the work that needs to be done, is those thoughts and those voices in your head, removing the material, the music, the people that put those in there for you, and that provided an environment where that comes to you naturally. Take that out and start being the change that you want to see. That is, you know, it's generic, but that's what needs to happen. You need to be the change. So step up and find your resources and be a resource for others. That's my recommendation.
Thank you, JeaDa. Any other follow-ups with that, or people who want to comment on that? Anything that JeaDa said? Or Mari? No? I think what would be good right now is if we went, if the panelists are ready, what I would love to hear is if you could share your 6 words and maybe tell us maybe a smidge about what those 6 words are or what they mean. And while that's happening, again, I just want to encourage people to go ahead and post their questions if they have them. And I also, the people at home, what I would love for you to do is so we're going to play, the enter key is lava. I'm not sure if you've played this game. The enter key is lava. So when you type in your 6 words into the chat, don't push enter. And then I'll have everybody push enter at once. So does that make sense? So go ahead and put your 6 words into the chat, but don't push enter. And then we'll allow everybody to just have that space to share their own voice. And then we'll put them all up at once. And so people can be thinking and really embracing what people's voice has to say in those 6 words. So I'm just going to give everybody a minute to write their 6 words in the chat. If you have a question, that's where the enter key is not lava. So if you have a question, go ahead and post that in the chat. push enter. I'm going to give everybody just a second, and then we'll invite our panelists to share their 6 words, and we'll try to get to 1 or 2 questions before we end. So just kind of 1 moment of silence while people write up their 6 words. So our 6 words, again, if you came in late, so I want you to think about the word race. How would you distill your thoughts, experiences, or observations about race into 1 sentence? And this can be tricky. And I also hope that some of the stories and words of wisdom that have come from this panel, I hope they're helping you shape those 6 words. So how would you distill your thoughts, experiences, or observations about race into 1 sentence? Or something you've heard from this panel, if it inspired your 6 words. So everybody ready? I'll say 3, 2, 1, and then you push enter. Ready? 3, 2, 1, posts. So we have 53 people on here. I want to see a lot more 6 words. Take that risk. This is part of that conversation. So as we keep going, this is part of those steps. This is about action. This is about putting your voice out there and continuing the conversation. So this is actually a national program, might even be international. You can actually look up the Race Card Project. And so you can see these 6 word statements that are a much broader conversation. And I hope you would consider putting your words into that space. But let's ask our panelists to share their 6 words. And then I'll also look to the side to see if we have any questions that people would like to address. So any panelists would like to go first?
I can go ahead and go.
Awesome. Thanks, Maria.
Okay. So when I was thinking about my 6 words, I thought of a quote from Rumi, which is, "Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field. I'll meet you there." Keeping that quote in mind, my 6 words are, let's meet beyond our given realities. So again, often it is difficult to create change when we believe that the life we were given is the only life to be lived. So.
Thank you. Next.
It's okay if I follow that one?
Yes, please.
Okay, mine was something similar, and that was let's be comfortably uncomfortable together now. And it has to take that kind of understanding that, as was said earlier, lots of recommendations have been made and they sit and they get stale and no action is taken. But together, if we're willing to be uncomfortable and get comfortable being uncomfortable, I think we can impact some things. And so that our risk taking is not the only risk taking. It's all of us taking those risks together. So.
Thank you.
I can go next. Mine was striving to be the best advocate. I recognize that my community is living in in the shadows, really, and I've seen that through my work with the Commission on Hispanic Affairs. They're living in, they're scared. They're scared of a lot of different things. They feel like they're not accepted by the broader community in Idaho. And so my day-to-day work and my commitment to myself and my community is just to try to be the best advocate I could possibly be.
Thank you. Thank you. Our other panelists?
I can go.
Thank you.
I came up with, quite a few, but I'll stick with the you are knowing better, do better. Maya Angelou said, if you know better, you do better. And you're taking in this information, so really sit with it. Don't try to keep making these fast moves, just really sit with it and really let it get to you, into your soul, and put yourself in the perspective of the ones that you're learning from.
Thank you.
And I'll go next. So mine is judge my character, not my race. And obviously we've been talking about that this whole past hour. The reason why that is important to me is because, I mean, we look at 2020 and how it's just like we're all doomed, and how the pandemic of not COVID, but racism is what's been embedded into our country for many generations. So, and I feel like the simple words I could find for that was judge my character, not my race. And also, just we look at systematic racism and how it affects any people of color, whether they have white skin, but Latino names, African American names, it was like those things are judged and that race is judged, but that person could be the next person to solve cancer. Like, we don't know how much we hold each other back. We talk about this really advanced, the best country in the world, but we hold each other back. We silence people that could save lives. And so that is my message. That is my sentence.
Thank you. Our last other panelists, Chloe, Kiara.
Mine was see me beyond my outward appearance. So, you know, if you don't know me and you come up to me, like, get to know me before you start judging me. Don't judge me off the color of my skin or like how I present myself. There's so many things that make me who I am that you wouldn't know about based on like how I look. So it's important to have that conversation with people and not judge them first.
Great, thank you. Chloe?
Mine was or is race is God's palette he created. I feel like, or created, it's something that I feel like it's beautiful. Race is a beautiful thing, and I feel like that's also something that we should also focus on is trying to find yourself, trying to love yourself and accept yourself and embrace yourself, and to also accept others too in that process.
Just a really nice, I'm kind of speechless because I'm just really feeling your words and the intent and the empowerment to continue this conversation. We had a couple questions about institutionalized racism, and it looks like we've provided some great resources. JeaDa, do you want to talk about that syllabus or just share about that? Again, you posted, I didn't know if you wanted to explain it or if it needed explanation or it's just out there.
I feel like there are other topics that we should talk about because I gave a lot of information, and the syllabus I gave goes through a whole bunch of articles in history, like Black Wall Street. Because, for instance, just an example of, I think a misconception is a lot of people are like, well, why haven't Black people fought back? Why haven't all these people done something about this race issue, all these oppressed people? Honey, we have. Our places get burned down, our money gets stolen, we get shot in the streets, and our towns get flooded. Also, if we go into the history of that's something I encourage. Really look at the history of the first people on this continent. Like, really just go through the history and really understand how flawed our education system is. That's one thing I really recommend. But yes, please go through the links. I think you will find a really great evening with tea and mind-blowing facts about how hard we've tried to stop this and how this fight has been going on for hundreds of years.
Great, thank you. I didn't see any other questions. And maybe I'm missing them. There were a lot of lovely 6 words, so there was a lot to scroll through. And again, I encourage people to take a moment or copy these words and to take a moment and look at what people shared. There's a lot of powerful statements here that I think are important to think about the voice that people are bringing to the table and the risks that people are taking. But as we've talked about, we need to do more. We need to do more, and we as a white woman, I need to do more. So making this an I statement, and that I really am taking to heart, I hope others are too, the importance of challenging myself to be more vocal and to get more involved and to hold more of these discussions and take ownership over the things I don't know. So I really hope that we continue this conversation. If you have taken any classes from me, you know that I love Chimamanda Adichie's Danger of a Single Story. And what I love about the single story idea is that we learn a single story, but what she's challenging us to do is to fill the gaps of the incomplete stereotypes, to fill those voids, to recognize, as many of the panelists have said, that we have gaps. And recognition is the first piece of that, is our gaps are there. We've learned one story, and we need to recognize that that's not the only story, that we need to ask. We need to be active, and we cannot be passive and wait for other people to give us that information. So for me, these were very powerful stories that helped me, and I'm going to take that and continue this conversation, but I hope others will pursue that. And so definitely want to hear from JeaDa. I'm not sure if Tommy's raising his hand as well, but I would love the closing voice to be our panelists. And so we have to finish up, but I definitely want to, maybe we can hear from JeaDa. And Tommy, did you want to say one last thing, or were you just stretching? Uh-oh, so maybe JeaDa, and then we'll see if
We can't hear you, Tommy.
Tommy, you're muted.
Okay. Oh, we still can't hear you, man.
My bad. It took me off of the Zoom, so I had to log back on. So I missed everything. Are we closing up now?
We are. We're
Okay.
we're just gonna have maybe just, if you wanted to say a statement, or JeaDa wanted to just kind of close us up, and final word, I'm totally happy. And then I want to invite people, if you can, to stick around. What we're going to do just following this session, if you have to go, absolutely go. But we have a Share Your Story video, the collaborative art project, which is really designed to celebrate the voices of students on campus who took the time to share a story this week about what cultural diversity means to them. So thank you. If we can hear maybe from Tommy and JeaDa, and anyone else who just wants a short statement, I think we're okay. And if you have to leave, please do.
Tommy, I just want to end with like a affirmation / prayer for everybody. So if you have something to say really fast, please go ahead.
Okay. I just want to say I'm grateful to be offered this platform. This is kind of something that I felt like we needed to discuss a long time ago. And I just find it a blessing that I'm able to speak, and even being a part of the Nez Perce tribe, even just our people are known to be resilient, and all our past struggles, I feel like I would be ashamed if I wouldn't speak the truth and only the truth. So I'm personally gonna constantly self-check myself and knowing and be accepting of everyone, because I know race is something that we have to all work on. And I'm not pointing fingers. I don't care about the politics, the Make America Great Again. I don't care about that. I care about people. And I understand that all of us come from a root of indigenous powerful people. And I would not be making my ancestors proud if I were to bash, or if I were to discredit people for being proud of who they are. I know some people have lost their languages, they've lost their heritage. Sometimes they still hold on to saying, well, I'm Nez Perce, or I'm Walla Walla, or I'm Cherokee. We have to consider the fact that all of us come from somewhere. We have to know all of that. And so my message to everyone is to obviously know better, do better, and judge someone's character, not their race. Thank you.
Thank you, Tommy. And on top of that, I just want to say like a lot of what he's saying. And I just wanted you to repeat like affirmations to yourself. I am powerful. My message matters. I am here for a reason. I am blessed. My words can change the world. Remember that and believe that, because you find your power and you give that to the world, because that's what we need right now. Not just to share a post, not just a like. Find the power in you and spread that shit wherever you go, okay? Amen to myself.
I know some of our, thank you. Sorry, I need to say thank you. That was very powerful. I know a couple of our panelists need to go and we're a little bit over time. So I just want to thank each and every one of you for coming and sharing your time and your story and your power and your wisdom and your experience. We couldn't have done this without you. I just so much appreciate this. If there's any other last minutes, and otherwise I'll ask Manny to come on and share her screen and we'll do the share your story. Thank you so much. Oh, one more question, sorry. I did see in the chat, if people are interested in more in this conversation, there was how do we get a hold of those resources or who do we talk to? So on campus, there's Multicultural Student Organization, there's Anthropology Club. So if you go to clubs and orgs, there's several active groups on campus who are working really hard to celebrate and to do activism. You can, of course, email me, so klallison@lcsc.edu. If I can try to direct you to resources. We have the President's Diversity Commission on campus. We have the Center for Teaching and Learning. So if you have questions, please contact these people who are actively working on IDEA and inclusiveness and on diversity and equality and advocacy and anti-racism and these important movements to share a voice and to continue the conversation. So there are people working on this and we continue to encourage you to get involved. So thank you. And any other panelists want to say, are we okay? Can we do the share your story? I don't want to cut it short, but we're a little over. Thanks for sticking with us. We okay? Thanks so much. Okay, Manny, do you have?
Hi, yeah, I could take over. Thank you for everybody who's here and also sticking around past the hour. I told Kerensa this panel is so needed, or this conversation is so needed, and an hour and 15 is just not enough. But let's continue this. Let's keep this momentum in your own spaces. Like Kerensa mentioned, we do have a lot of programs, organizations set in place. So hopefully everybody can reach out, get involved so that we can continue these conversations that are so needed. It's not just for Multicultural Week, it's every day, because many of us as a faculty of color, and I work with a lot of students of color on campus, we live it, right? It's every day. And so this week is just 1 week, but we need to continue these conversations for sure. So a little bit about this project here. We wanted to create like more of an art project that we could kind of share some stories, and we all come from different backgrounds, different experiences in life, which makes us all different and unique in every different way, right? So this project was really to just kind of get students involved, and also social media as well too. And we started a hashtag, hashtag LCMAW 2020. And we asked students students, faculty, and staff to share their stories or just to share their own understanding of what it means to embrace cultural diversity. And so we got some submission, or just some photos of students sharing their pictures and a little blurb or a little story about how they embrace cultural diversity. And I kind of just, I'm not a professional or anything, but I kind of just put this all together in a slideshow so we can kind of see all the different works that were submitted. So thank you to everybody who did submit their video here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and start the slideshow here. Hopefully, Kerensa, can you all hear me okay?
I can hear you, but I don't see anything on the screen. Are you sharing
Okay,
your screen?
I'm starting to share right now. So
Oh, awesome.
let me know if we can see it. Okay, hold on.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Yes, I see it now. Thank
Okay.
you so much. Yep.
So I made sure that my computer is connected here. Hopefully you can hear the music okay.
I don't hear the music.
Did you say you don't hear the music?
I do not hear the music. I just see the pretty pictures.
Oh no. Okay, let me see here.
Mom.
Let's pause sharing here.
Juice, Mom. But
So I'm joined, my audio is connected and you couldn't hear anything, Kerensa?
I couldn't. I just saw the pictures, but maybe we can just play the pictures and
Okay.
yeah, I don't.
Because I'm connected through the computer here, so I thought it should show.
On the advanced setting, you can click at the bottom and it should say music through the computer and you click that.
Yeah.
That's my tech. That's my only tech advice. So
Okay, so let's.
yeah, Sarah in our chat saying when you share your screen, you have to check the share computer audio box at the bottom. So I don't know if that's helpful. Thank you for your patience. We appreciate it.
So it's all checked here, so I'm not sure why I'm connected through the audio. Let's just, how about let's go ahead and just play it and.
Okay.
Let's do that. Sorry about that. Let me try to start the beginning. Kerensa, it's all you.
Oh, I don't know what you're saying, Manny. I thought that was super powerful and lovely. I just think it was a wonderful way to kind of complete our celebration and our conversations about the power and importance of cultural diversity. I, again, just welcome all of you to continue this conversation. And I just couldn't be happier. So all of our talks are on our website. So if you missed the keynote, or if you want to, you know, embrace or rework or think about this panel discussion more, you can share it, you can listen to it again. Again, this is a work in progress. This is something that's really important. So thank you for being here. Share this information widely. And we have one more event tomorrow. So we have a virtual dance party on Zoom tomorrow at 9 o'clock. And so the Zoom link is the same as you entered this panel today. I'm going to be there and you should come too. We're going to play lots of great music that students have submitted and some tunes from me, and my kids are going to be there too. And we're all going to dance and we're going to come together as a community. So through Zoom, come show us your move, or just come listen to some good music and celebrate Multicultural Awareness Week at LCSC 2020. So thanks for your time. I really appreciate it. And we'll also announce that we have some prize winners. So anyone who entered a Share Your Story was entered into a drawing if you shared that hashtag. So we'll announce our winners for that tomorrow. And I know that Web was doing some challenges today. So if you were involved with any of the challenges that they put forth, they had their own drawings for that. And then we'll also have kind of a dance competition. We'll vote for the best dancers tomorrow at the virtual dance as well. So thanks for participating this week. And of course, if you have questions or comments, I'm happy to answer anything and everything about Multicultural Awareness Week, or if you're looking to get more involved with that on campus, we're happy to hear your voice. So I'll put my email on the screen. So klallison@lcsc.edu. And thanks again to everyone who participated today. Okay, have a great day.